I'm so excited for today's guest. Dr. Jen Welter is a groundbreaking figure in professional football, known as the first female coach in the NFL. In 2015, she made history as a linebackers coach for the Arizona Cardinals. Her trailblazing career also includes serving as a defensive specialist for the Alliance of American Football and coaching the first Australian women's national team. Before breaking barriers in men's football, she enjoyed a 14-year career in women's professional football, winning 4 world championships and 2 gold medals with Team USA. She is dedicated to empowering women through football and has authored a book called Play Big: Lessons in Be It Limitless. She also holds a doctorate in psychology. For taking the
You're
time.
welcome.
So can you share a little bit about how you first got into sports and what inspired you to pursue sports?
So I was always a highly energetic kid. My mom lovingly tells the story of when she went to get her tubes tied because she had promised 2 kids and that was it. And so she went to get her tubes tied, and that meant I had to be on a bottle. And when she came back, she thought she was going to still breastfeed. And I was like, mm-mm, I can eat and run. I'm out of here. She's like, you would not do it. Once you found a bottle, you were like, yeah. So I am a high energy person, I think, by birth and nature. And my family was always really just active, I would say. I don't think it was necessarily as like organized sports oriented as some people's like families are, like, you're kicking a soccer ball as soon as you can run kind of thing, but we always did physical stuff. And then my first real like sport that I kind of lasered in on was tennis. And I talk about tennis a lot. And I think part of why it was so powerful for a young girl when I was growing up is that was the sport that you could see women on TV. And I thought that those women were everything a woman should be, right? They were beautiful and strong and doing it on their own terms. And I just really was like, I I I'm a super imaginative person, but as a kid, I imagined that those women were like what the Greek goddesses were, right? Like this is the real life Athena. And I aspired to be like them. And I think that's something really important for us to realize is how the impact of coverage and spotlights on women in sports, how powerful that is to all of the young girls watching. And I tell people all the time, you know, we can't tell girls that they can do whatever they want and that them playing sports is just as important as the boys, and then not cover the women playing sports, not show the girls and women on TV, because basically young girls call BS. They're like, but wait a minute. The way that I can be famous is be pretty Mary well and act badly. So why would I work so hard to be an athlete? Because they don't seem to get love, they don't seem to get paid, and they get no TV time. So like kids are smart, they're super perceptive. If we want to tell a girl she can do everything, we got to show women doing everything as well.
Amazing. And it's so true because we always encourage and say, oh, you should get involved in that and do that. And it's so similar like in chess, but it's like, well, actually, you're not going to get as much of the coverage, support, even resources to excel.
Right. I think one of the best things for chess was the Queen's Gambit.
Yes, absolutely. And putting it out there and highlighting it in a way that nothing really was highlighted before.
Right. Like, I mean, I would lovingly say I didn't get to learn chess when I was, when I was younger, but watching that movie, I was like,
Yes.
okay, like throw down on the chessboard. Like
Yes.
right? And that's such a powerful place that I promise you, I would bet money on it. There were girls who then said, "Ooh, I could do that too."
Yes.
And whether or not it ends up being the thing in their life is not the important thing. The fact that they realized it could be a thing, and once they saw it, then they could apply themselves and see if it was a place where they, really loved it beyond the curiosity, and where they had talent and wanted to put time on task. Like, that's a different thing. But if you don't ever see it, then how do you say, hmm, maybe I could do what she's doing?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And speaking of being, a woman in a male-dominated space, making history as the first female coach in the NFL. Can you talk about that moment? Like, what was going through your mind? What was happening when you stepped into that role?
Well, I think the funniest part is to say what was going on in my mind the night before I stepped on the field for the first time, because I think I, like so many people stepping onto a big moment, like all of the bad things were running through my head, right? Like, I distinctly remember picturing myself running out onto the stadium, which was the stadium we practiced in every day. Okay. At that time, it was called University of Phoenix Field. If y'all don't know, the stadium in Phoenix looks like a toaster in the middle of the desert. Thank goodness it's air conditioned, because otherwise you would literally pop like toast. Okay. It is hot, hot in Arizona, but the stadium does look like a toaster. And I could not shake the image in my mind of running out on the field and face planting in front of millions of people. And um that's both physically and proverbially. Like, I was an assistant position coach, so although the world was afraid that the team might face plant, like, they're going to play football, right? Like, they're going to play football. They've been well trained to play football. It was not starting and ending with me, but the world was collectively holding their breath. I mean, maybe they thought that the guys would quite possibly come out wearing skirts, because we'd never seen a female before. Maybe they thought I was going to impact their wardrobe choices. But, we there's such a grandiose thing of pressure of being first, because first inherently means only. And the pressure of that, thank goodness I have strong shoulders, is that at that particular time, the entire narrative surrounding women coaching in men's pro football was on my shoulders. Not that weren't other women capable, there just happened to be only one woman. So it wasn't like people were asking the question, could Jen Welter do dot dot dot? They were asking, could a woman do dot dot dot? And that means that, like, oh gosh, all of womanhood is resting on my shoulders. Like, if I screw up, does that mean that we're going to close the door tighter and never have there be another woman? And that in and of itself is just terrifying. And yet I found um sanity and support in the players. And that's converse to what most people assumed. Most people assumed that the guys would hate it. They didn't want any women there. They wouldn't listen. And I firmly believe we don't give some of those men enough credit, because though they may not have been coached by women in football before, most of them have been coached by women their whole lives. And they were and still are a lot of my biggest support. And those guys were like, man, coach, I never imagined we'd have a woman here. Like, this is the coolest thing. Or like, coach, my mom is such a big fan. Would you meet my mom? I'm like, absolutely, I'd meet your mom. Let's go meet your mom right now. Oh, I know you're busy. No, no, no. There is nothing more important than me meeting your mom, because you are the man that you are, and you are wonderful to me every day because of the way she raised you. And so, I think we imagine one thing, and then the day to day is often so much different, and we find support and love in places that people on the outside would never imagine. And, for me, it was better than I could have ever imagined.
And I feel like it's like you're so right. Whenever we are in an arena that is so male dominated and we do something or we compete or whatever it might be, we feel like we represent all women that ever did anything. And it's so much pressure on ourselves. And that instead of it being of a moment where we're like, no, I'm qualified, this is my job, I'm here to do it. It's like, wait, what if I mess up? And then this impacts how women are having access to these opportunities in the future.
Right. And, I think that's the most important thing. And like I say this sometimes, and it sounds really heavy, and this is like the importance of being first is to ensure you're not the last, right? You don't have to be the best to ever do it. You don't have to go the furthest for any woman who ever does blah, blah, blah. And you're certainly not responsible for, nor can you take credit for every other woman who does the damn thing, right? And does it well. What you can say is that we opened minds, hearts, and doors because we didn't shut it tighter because I didn't screw up, right? Like, thankfully, other people looked and they were like, well, yeah, of course we should do it. Of course you should do it because Bruce already did the brave thing and hired the first woman. And thankfully, we didn't do it badly. So then they said, well, that was a great idea. And Bruce is a genius. And I'm like, he is a genius. And I love Bruce Arians. And it could have gone out another way if it wasn't done in such a great way. And if that team wasn't the right team and the head coach wasn't the right head coach, and thankfully I was a woman who could fall in with them and learn from them and bring my own, special sauce to the equation.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And thinking about your journey and how it's impacted women and girls and where they are, how do you think back and remember any sort of self-doubt that you had? Like, how did you push through those moments? Because I feel like we're continuously having those moments where we lack the confidence. Maybe it's, we just don't feel like we're good enough. So in those moments, what did you say to yourself or what did you do that helped pivot those thoughts?
So the more you do, the bigger the challenges, the bigger the doubts, right? Like, and it's so interesting because I think the perception and reality of people who do big things are so very, very different, right? Like, I have people who are like, well, you're fearless, you've conquered this and you commanded this. And I go, oh, oh, oh. First of all, you don't command respect, you earn it, right? Second of all, there are probably every day I look at something and go, somebody should do something about that. And then I go, oh, 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 me? No, really? And the way that I find it is like very simply one, when I started playing football, I promised myself I would step up to every challenge the game put in my way, because leading from the front and being a first means there's no roadmap to follow. You're creating it, which means when you're creating a roadmap, think about like somebody going through the woods that has never been there before. There are branches that are going to hit you in the face. There are rocks you're going to have to climb under. There are things that you're going to have to go around. Oh, that looked like a stream and it's really a cliff. Like, it's never going to be a straight line, which means you have to give yourself a lot of grace. And when you get hit, you just have to promise to keep going. So it is not this perfectly polished, confident journey. It's ugly, it's messy, it's certainly not glamorous. I don't think of my journey as glamorous. I had somebody ask me when I thought I had arrived, and I was like, I will let you know when I get there because I'm certainly not there yet. Um, but I do promise or challenge myself to be the woman that I needed as a girl to see and didn't have. And I think that that to me is the place that's pure. Politics are tough. Um, Money things are tough. The world is tough. Adulting is ugly. Um, but kids deserve adults like us who will say, you know what, I'm going to do this so that she and the next she and every other she doesn't have it as hard as I did. Doesn't mean it won't be hard. They're going to have their own hard moments, right? Like the journey will always be hard, but at least I can clear some of those barriers and um, be open about the hard stuff, the good stuff, and help them maybe have more confidence and not go through the exact same challenges that I have. Again, doesn't mean there won't be challenges, but if I could save you one face plant, then the likelihood that you'll keep going or go further with a little less pain or, one less black eye, then hopefully we've done something good.
Absolutely. I love that. And this is my favorite part with this next question, because I know you've answered part of it, but what I love about your entire career is that you've really focused on this. A lot of what we try to work with women on is what I call unleashing their inner queen. So helping them understand that they have a mission that's inside of them. They can achieve it, but they gotta work at it and understand that they can do it. When I say, unleash your inner queen, like what does that mean to you? And how do you think you unleash your inner queen?
I think one, it's being willing to proudly wear a crown. I don't think that we necessarily are taught to celebrate ourselves as girls the same way that boys are. Um, and I think it's adjusting someone else's crown without, calling attention to it, right? Like, hey, baby girl, you've got toilet paper on your shoe, or, you're really super good at this. And so I think owning your strengths and not minimizing yourself to make other people feel good is a really important part of life. I remember as a girl, right? Like I was a girl who was a captain of the soccer team. I was on the math team and I was dating the captain of the football team. And I distinctly remember feeling like I couldn't be too smart in this group because I might make them feel bad. Or, I couldn't be this strong in this group because maybe they wouldn't like appreciate it or I'd make them feel bad. And so I would downplay a lot of the really good things about myself, maybe through humor. I mean, I am a bit of a comedian, but even through some of those things and was, I would say, uncomfortable with compliments at times because I was never really given permission to fully shine. And I tell people it took me a long time to remember, not learn, but remember what I inherently knew as a kid because I didn't yet have that weight of you shouldn't do this or you should do that or girls don't do this or be a little quieter or don't celebrate yourself. And so I had to remember that girl. And a lot of the times I remember that girl and walk a little taller and speak a little louder so that the next girl will have permission to do that in her own life and in her own right and in her own way.
Yeah, I love it. Oh, this is amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Mhm.
This is great. I can't wait to put all this together and share it. I think our listeners will get so much from this. And I personally am so excited that we're connected because truly I've loved watching your entire career. And one of the reasons that so I did competitive chess for like 10 years and I loved it. It was great. But I realized that there was something else to it that I was missing. And so now what I love to do is use chess to help athletes grow and think about themselves in different ways, whether it's on the field or in leadership or whatever that might look like. And so um, it's just really understanding from a lot of your background and your work truly helped me as I was learning about all the pivots getting into, football and understanding what that leadership looks like.
Yeah, amazing. And, I think it's a really powerful tool to take something that we're good at and extend it and make it understandable and accessible to other people. I do some of the same stuff when it comes to football, whether it be, utilizing a day in the life to give women the understanding of full contact chess, right? Like those are things and moments that to me are just so wonderful and powerful, and you push people to get ugly, to get good. And I always say that, like, to my girls, I'm like, hey, you want to get really ugly? And they're like, what? Like, oh yeah, to get really good, you've got to get good and ugly. And they're like, oh yeah, I want to get ugly. And I'm like, yeah, I bet you want to get ugly. And that in a social media driven society is so challenging. um but just learning that an area you've been told was maybe off limits, or you weren't good enough or strong enough or fast enough for, to take that and break it down and make it accessible like you do with chess or I do with football. I mean, that's the fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. This is awesome. And I'm so excited too that you're leading the marketing now for Arena Football, right? The Arena Football League. That's so cool.
Yeah. So we just finished the relaunch season. And it was the group that started it, got replaced by a new one. So I kind of came in to help clean out some old stuff and really provide insight and new direction, particularly with content and storytelling.
Mm-hmm. That's